Well, hello. Welcome to Painting VR. This is not the first video I've tried making of this, but it is going to be the first I'm going to make with a whole finished piece at the end of it. I have a little bit of time before I need to start on any commissions, so I just wanted to go ahead and introduce this program to everybody. That's a logo by the creators. Look at this video. It's pretty awesome, right? So this is a really cool program for those of you who are digital artists, have a kind of an awareness of how to run around in programs like this, but maybe are missing a little bit of the feel of traditional art, or maybe just can't afford the ridiculous amount of paint required for something of this scale. So I think it's really exciting. I really want to share it with everybody. I have some introductory videos that I wanted to show off for this, but I really wanted to get a video of me finishing a piece and have that to show people because I don't have too much time to work in this program. I'm working mainly in Photoshop CC right now on my laptop for most of my projects, but I'm really trying to find a workflow that can involve VR, and maybe this is it. So this is my first big attempt at trying to make a full-on piece. I'm going to show a little bit of what the program can do. I'm going to very briefly run over that, and then I'm going to show a little bit of what I've done, 2 pieces that are just me messing around, and then the rest of the video is just going to be me listening to some music and then making the piece. Real quick, this is not going to be a Bob Ross presentation. I would not dare to say that I'm nearly as charismatic as that man. And but I will say that this is mainly about the vibe, the music. I will probably run through some lo-fi hip hop to electronica of various sorts. So I hope that that sounds appealing to some of y'all who have some diverse ranges and tastes. I will say that some of the times my music taste can get a little bit intense, but I'm running through my Apple Music right now, so it's not like too much of that is on there. But I will be listening to some hyper at some point. Um, but for the first time, it's going to be first few minutes are just going to be explosions in the sky and flying lotus because I have a playlist going. Enough talking. So let me show you. So you can see the different kinds of brushes that we have at our disposal, even ranging from spray paint stuff, and then you have the buckets that can help you mix. You even have some paint thinner that can help you with the opacity of some of these paints. Look at that, it's getting thinner, 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 so it's a good little thing to work with and blend, but we're not really restricted simply just by, working with buckets. We can also work with some references. So if you pull up a little menu by just holding your hand up like this, you can go to your portfolio, your references. So I'm just going to pull up this guy, apply in space, and so I can move this guy, put him wherever I want, even though it's a little weird to grab. And then I don't know if I can increase the size of this thing. I don't think I can. That's fine, it's not like we need a huge little palette. But I'm just going to go ahead. This is very much a Photoshop color palette. Gonna put that right there. So yeah, we have a whole big canvas to work with, but we're not restricted too much by the limitations. So you can even do stuff like this, making it as large as you want. That's what she said. I'm sorry, I had to go for it. But yeah, you can also use the different types of brushes. Like I said, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about what the different brushes do. It's very kind of straightforward. This is mainly an appeal to artists and creatives who are looking for something in this ballpark. But the majority of this video is just going to be me just painting. So I can definitely answer questions if anyone brings it up. I mean, who knows if anyone's going to interact with this, but I'm just going to go at it. And I'll kind of explain on the way. I'm really just trying to cover some canvas at first, so let me just go ahead, size this down, and put that black on, and then go ahead. Yeah, I really don't care to explain too much right now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and start my music. I hope you enjoy. You gotta love the sound effects. Now, I may be talking while I'm doing this just because it's going to help me with my thought process on what's going to happen, but look at this cool, like, glitch that's happening where it's getting stuck behind. That's a really interesting texture. I really like that. Right now, I'm just extending this length of it, and it's getting stuck. Well, it's mostly getting stuck on this side of the canvas, so it's just doing a nice, even application like that. But if I put it too much directly in the canvas, it's not going to do what I want. I really like how sharp that shape is, how kind of industrial this is making the piece. Well, that is doing that now. So there's no undo button, you know. This is very reminiscent of my experience with the program Alchemy, where there was no undo button in that, but this is not vector, whereas that one was. Let me turn that down just a little bit. Maybe not get copyrighted in the process, right? This will be a story. No one cares about stories when it comes to that kind of crap. Gosh, so you can definitely see how different parts of the brush, if you want to call it, are getting interacted with. This is something that you notice when you're working with digital brushes a good bit. Basically, like in the way that you work with the physical brush, there's like a physics to it, and you can get all sorts of different interesting line out of that if you know how to play it. And so it really is about playing with it, messing around, you know what I mean? You don't want to be too strict on what you're getting done, or as far as technique's concerned, or you'll never find something that's really that different. I am doing my best to not have... Oh, I have to hold down the trigger, that's right. Okay. It is very bouncy. I will say that. Which is fun. It's not like I prefer it not to be. So look, you can see some really cool, you know, transparent streaks. And so there's definitely a sense of like wet to the paint that I like. I like this little blue and interjected right there. See, it's not even like, the lighter I apply it, see, that's dope. I think that's really cool. I don't know too many of these painters nowadays. I think Gerard Richter was somebody that one of my teachers said that I kind of was not mimicking so much as doing something similar the other year. So I will go ahead and say that if you want to look up, oh, it's blue now. If you want to look up any kind of stuff that may be similar to some large canvas stuff like this, then maybe that's where it needs to be. I am literally just having fun with this, you know what I mean? There is not too much of an intention right now. It's honestly just trying to find some cool results. I am moving my wrist back and forth. I'm trying to get the most interesting line that I can, while also trying to be as, I don't know, charismatic with my application as I can. So that you can see, having now that paint thinner, right? It's doing this really interesting opacity business going on. And it is very light on the brush, but not so much using the brush. Maybe if, see, look, that's lighter than if I was doing too harshly. Like I'm saying, there's a physics to this stuff. I wouldn't know too much about how it's interacting, but it's very interesting to mess around with. So we're getting a little bit to the same blue here. If I select with this, I can kind of get a different color going. That's a nice sort of cooler blue, not as intense. Something sort of like a cobalt of a type, like a desaturated sort of baby blue, or darker baby blue, but yeah. I do not know all the colors that exist. I do my best, but I do not know the names to a lot of them that I surely have used at some point or another. But the intention right now is not to give a damn about all that. It's really about, we need a finished piece. Let's make the finished piece. And like I'm saying, this is a warm-up at the end of the day, so I do not want to spend too much time on this, but I do want to get the muscle of creativity sort of going. Now I can't rely entirely on the brush to do everything for me. I have to eventually figure out, you know, some type of way to make it work with what I'm doing, but I think small moments when I'm relying on gesture, the movement, the sort of muscle memory of, you know, trying things out. And then, you know, you develop a sort of, what's the word? A voice, I guess is one of my teachers used to call it. You know, and the more you do that, the more kind of unified the piece is. And you risk messing with that voice the more you try different brushes. So that's why I'm just doing a smaller version of this roller brush. Very Best Buy, isn't it? So let's go ahead and try a different color. You know, just because it's being very, I don't know, uniform in some of these things doesn't mean that you have to completely yield to it. You know, color offers up a lot of choice that line can kind of feel restricting on. This is very much an exploration piece. So the more you are kind of breaking that comfort barrier to just find something, the more you're on track to just making something interesting. And, you know, I can tell you that physics. Big paintings like this do not always look that great up close. It's from afar where you really get a lot of the action, especially if you're doing sign painting. Sorry, looking at my phone. This is just a regular kind of brush. Let's see what we can get. It's a nice little red. So I don't think that, you know, paint thinning is exactly like it is in real life. Like I don't think you can really run out of paint, you know, with what's on here. But you can thin it out to make the opacity, you know, like thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. I think the most interesting thing for me painting is just what like line alone can't do. Like, sorry, the song was just a little bit distracting more than I would have liked it to be. You know, painting just makes you realize that you do not have all the answers. There's a lot of tips and tricks, and honestly, like, learning technique is great, but I have found painting to be very liberating when it comes to just trying things. It is very, you know, your call at the end of the day. There is so many ways in which you can layer, texture, try. I think the important thing is to not give up because you're not seeing what you want to see. I think it's very intimidating for most people, the thought that painting has to be this great part of, you know, the canon, the tradition of traditional painting, and that's not true at all. You know what I mean? I think style and taste is very dependent upon the person who is painting, but also the person viewing. So you could have somebody who, you know, totally is down with just your nonsense, and somebody who's totally down with you being very intentional. I've noticed a lot of trends where chaos is being more and more embraced, but I definitely would agree. See, look, there's a very interesting 3D layering style of this. Like, I think I can see all these different brushes as separate, but still on the same canvas. Like, for some reason, this just looks very dimensional, even though if I were to look sideways to it, it's weird. It's very deceiving because I don't know. It has this like almost kind of that book effect, that 3D book where you're kind of crossing your eyes and seeing something popping out. So that's something interesting to think about. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff, you know, you may not always think about if you're just going at it without considering just having fun with it. Right now, I'm not being too descriptive or decisive. I'm honestly just having fun. And fun for me is a very exploratory but also curiosity driven experience. I don't like things not being filled in where they could, but at the same time, I'm not a perfectionist. For me, it's a lot about balance, having a good balance of warm to cool, positive to negative, and a lot of this ends up just being your style, your what you prefer. You know what I mean? I'm sorry if I'm not making sense. I'm really trying to just do more than talk, but I can't help but talk sometimes. It's unfortunate. So you can color select on the canvas as well as in on the palette. So this is something I struggle with, is just having very decisive use of strong lighting. I'm very soft sometimes with my lighting, and it can really make things too hazy. So even I have to learn sometimes when to make a decision. Look at that, that's dope. I think that's awesome. Let's back up a little bit. I think we need some yellow. Yellow and maybe some lighter blue. So I am a person who loves gradients. This is something that anyone who knows me pretty well or knows my work pretty well, you will definitely pick up on this. Gradients of line, gradients of texture, gradients of color, you name it, I will gradient it. I love how far that goes. So it's very strong. It's kind of... Sometimes when you aren't able to control the brush as well as you like, a change of technique is maybe more needed. So I went from more of that gradient application to like a pointillism kind of application, just to maybe get some of the base colors where we needed them to be. Okay, very chaotic. You know, I won't lie and say that I'm not a little bit intimidated by the program, and kind of all that's happening right now is a little messy, but I can say the same about my usual art process. You know, you can get very intimidated by it until you start seeing something, and so that's why you can't give up. You just got to keep going. I will change brushes for now. Here is a splatter. As you can see, it is unstable. I will go with that yellow. Maybe this yellow. So painting with it is pretty interesting because it can give some like cool wet application, but you're gonna most likely just see that splatter. So like that, like that, like that, which is okay. I would like to also be able to blend with it as much as you can with like these guys. So this blurs. Let me choose a cool little blue instead of that. Blend upwards. So, you know, there is. Oh, see, I can crouch down and do all this. You know, they're in the same way that you're messing with, you know, certain blur abilities like in Photoshop. Like Photoshop is just like, you know, a digitalized version of something that was already being done physically. So you're doing kind of the reverse, right? So this is a blur. We're kind of getting a little bit more of just a very muted tone, but I like what I'm seeing so far. And I can extend out even more some of these drips, right? We don't have to just simply let it be. And they can interact. And I'm using this blue to help it kind of blend, but let's try something else. Like, let's try a little bit of reverse with this lighter. You don't always know what it's going to look like, you know what I mean? It's not always going to be the banger. Every decision isn't always an amazing one, but you don't get to the good ones without trying some bad ones, right? So I like this kind of flow that's happening. Let me try to mimic it, or emphasize it rather. But to keep that sharpness, because that's going to really elucidate what we want from this. I'll keep some of that part. Ooh, well, that was a happy accident, I suppose. Sorry, I tried my best not to bring that into this, but Bob Ross is the man for a reason. And so, you know, a little painting tip is that infinity sort of 8. Get your nice little cross. Get some of that red. For me, working digitally is great because I can keep choosing the hue that I want, and I can get more of that painterly gradient that I'm looking for. Which, like, I don't know. For me, brushstroke is no different than line, which may be why my line stuff is so not as clean as it may need to be. But that's okay. At some point, if you know what you're doing, it's all decision, right? Let's get some sharpness in here. Oh yeah, I can do this. That is so cartoonish to me, which is great. You kind of have to finesse your wrist a little bit if you really want to get some of that stuff that you need. May have to pause this.